Hey guys, Sleepy Reader here, Damien, coming at you with my Gotham report. I'm gonna just go over, maybe quickly, maybe slowly, a bunch of my Batman Gotham kind of reading. There's actually some other books, particularly Batgirl and Gotham Academy, that I'm saving for another video that I will hopefully have time to do. Toys, very cheap toys, but you know, Adam West, wow. So yeah, here's a bunch. There's a lot that I haven't been talking about. I keep waiting to do these videos, and then I wait too long. So let me, since they're at the top of the pile, start with Gotham by Midnight 2 and 3. And love both of these covers. I mean, even better than the cover of number 1. Ben Templesmith is doing the covers. He's doing the interiors. I believe he's doing everything in the art. Color, line work, penciling, layouts, what have you. And he is awesome. I think this is like the ideal thing for him to be doing. I just love his work here. I think, you know, when I first kind of semi-read some Ben Templesmith comics like 30 Days of Night and stuff, I just didn't get into it that much. But now I am really loving Ben Templesmith's art. I suppose it's bad of me to like it more in a mainstream context like this, but it adds such a wonderful quirkiness. And I see in advanced solicitations, like for comic books after Convergence, that he's not on it. I'm hoping he's taking a break and there's not a permanent end to his run here. I mean, clearly the artwork like this, when he's doing everything, has got to take time. So it would be great, you know, if he and another artist could switch off arcs or something like that. This has, it didn't initially, the writing did not live up to the artwork. Ray Fox seemed to be missing something, a rhythm, a voice. But I feel like slowly a voice is growing. Maybe Fox is inspired by the artwork he's seeing coming back at him, or maybe Fox is just slow to get going. There's lovely touches, like the way each issue begins with this kind of page. You know, here, we are mistrusted, we are unorthodox, we are freaks, but we are the only ones your enemy fears. And in this issue, in issue 2, I think this was in issue 1 too, also, but I can't remember for sure. Nobody believes in us, nobody understands us, nobody wants us here. We're too busy protecting you to care. I mean, it's just kind of cool. This, if Fox could capture the energy of these opening things, of deliver on his promise in reality, you know, this could become a real favorite. Whether it'll go that way, issue 2 was okay, as was issue 1. In issue 3, things really, you know, kicked up many notches. That's where I thought maybe Fox was catching up with his artist, and I enjoy the flashbacks to how people got together. I do feel like if you didn't know this guy was the Spectre, will you get anything out of this kind of stuff about the Spectre that's hidden in here? I just want a little more about a little more focus on now I'm forgetting his name, Corrigan, the police officer who is the head of this division and who also is contained within inside of himself the Spectre, and trying to hold it back and play up the relationship, his relationship to the supernatural. So yeah, I've yet to read a comic book where Fox goes really deep into a character. I haven't read everything Fox has written. I've sort of bumped into Fox here and there. So I just hope he can go deeper into these characters. But so far, I'm, starting with issue 3, basically, I am really psyched to see what comes next in Gotham by Midnight. And a little dreading what's going to happen when the artist falls away, if he's really falling away. But yeah, so I'm guessing this will make a great first trade, if nothing else. Arkham Manor I really liked issue 1 and issue 2. Issue 3 got a little wonky for me, and I'm less bought into what's happening here. I'm liking the art more, it's grown on me more and more. The kind of loose, half kind of black comedy style of it. It's a very, for a DC comic especially, a very quirky style. I love the way this Joker piece of Clayface looks. And you know what? I really like the voice of Batman in this comic. I've been thinking lately about the voice of Batman, and I guess I'll be coming back to that. I think my favorite voice to Batman in a comic book is in Batman and Robin, written by Peter Tomasi, and this might be my second favorite. So yeah, and of course, it's not usually Batman in the picture so much as this character that we know is Batman in disguise, and we get a lot of his voice in the kind of voiceover boxes. So yeah, we know this is going to end, and I almost feel like, I wonder if the writer found out this was going to end around issue 3 or issue 4, and has become sloppier since then. But still, I think I'm going to enjoy this run to the end of its 6 issues. I assume it'll just be this one story arc. Okay, and then just quickly mention Grayson. I've been reading it and enjoying it. There was a substitute artist here, but he did a great job. I assume it's a substitute artist and that Mikhail Janin will come back. Mikhail Janin is another, in my mind, superstar of DC Comics. Combining a very realistic style with something different and just his own touch. But this looks awesome too. So it would not make me cry if this artist turned out to be the replacement for Mikhail Janin. I think his last name is Mooney. I still am a little apprehensive about the mixture of the Midnighter and all his more cosmic, the garden and the more cosmic stuff in here, but they seem to be doing a pretty good job of integrating it at this point. I don't know if I should know more about the gardener. Another interesting thing here is, in other comics, we have Batman, I think maybe even, in Endgame, we had Batman, and we had it in Detective a while back, Batman talking to Dick Grayson, just calling him up and chatting. But I have very much the sense in his own comic book that Spiral, the evil secret agency, they are tracking his every movement. He could get caught very easily. And so I kind of wish the other comics took him more seriously. Although I guess it's nice that they're keeping Dick Grayson in the mix, because this really completely... Dick Grayson is on the international stage, so to speak, international super spy stage in these comics, not very connected to Gotham at this point. It'd be fun to bring some of these storylines into Gotham, I think. Bring Spiral and their activities right into Gotham, and have perhaps an interaction with Batman where Dick Grayson has to pretend that he is not on Batman's side, directly facing Batman. Anyway, this still continues to be a really strong series. Hopefully it will be untouched by Convergence. And where did I put my Batman Eternals? I actually wanted to dig out even more Batman Eternal issues. it's been such a roller coaster, but these last two issues to me were quite good. The issue scripted by Tinian and art by La Fuente was excellent. Incredible coloring, just really great storytelling, just with these annoying pointy noses. But I think if I were reading this series and it were all drawn by La Fuente, I'd be perfectly happy. I'd get used to the pointy noses. I really liked the way they did Catwoman in here. So I felt like Tinian has a good grasp on Catwoman. And this Tinian is the strong writer in Batman Eternal. But the question in my mind is he also the hand behind the scenes, and is he the one that editorial and Scott Snyder are letting kind of run the show? In which case the show has been very badly run. So it's kind of weird when you get these very good issues like this issue. And then I know some people were not that crazy about this issue, but I thought this issue was also very good, which I think is by Ray Fox, who I was just talking about. Yes. Part of it is bolstered up by what I thought was incredibly excellent art by ACO or ACO. ACO? I don't know. I thought it was very cool. I always appreciate, first and foremost, if the storytelling works, if I can follow it, if it feels organic, and I think he passes all those tests. I mean, so did La Fuente. Extremely different styles. It really would be nice if the same artist and writer could stay on for like 3 issues at a time. The thing about this is it seems like a side story. It's hard for me to even keep track of what's going on now. Batman's after this basically pharmaceutical guy who was a doctor at Arkham. Did he have something to do with all the Reverend Blackfire stuff? I don't think so. But yeah, that's where it gets confusing. And how, so if I just picked up this issue and read it by itself, assuming the story continues next issue, I would be quite happy. I mean, I think it feels like a good standalone Batman story. Yeah, they kind of push the edge of believability on airport security, but I'm willing to go with that. So that this is kind of feels like a side story reminds me of threads that still feel very incomplete or untouched upon for months in this series, which is a long time in a weekly series. Dozens of issues essentially. The biggest one to me is James Gordon in prison. It seemed like there was going to be a whole plot element there that just never happened, particularly with the fact that he was getting visits from James Gordon Jr. In fact, at one point James Gordon Jr. gave him like a 1-day deadline to make a choice on something, and then there was a big threat, and I don't think anything ever happened with that. There was a prison riot that Gordon Jr. and the Lion put down together, I guess. I don't think that was connected to James Gordon Jr. Anyway, and the whole idea, it just drives me crazy that Gordon's just sort of sitting in jail and everyone's basically forgotten about doing anything about that, including his daughter, who used to be, rabidly on point on that issue. Yeah, and other things that are still in the mix aren't in the mix enough as we go towards the finale, it feels like to me. Other people have probably said this better in their reviews. I'm starting to think, people have been talking about it going 52 issues. I think they talked about 52 issues at one point, then they talked about 60, but then everyone's talking about 52 again. I'm wondering if this is going 60 issues, just at the leisurely pace it's going. Otherwise, there's 8 issues left to wrap everything up. And my worst fear, which I've joked about with Ghost Critic, is that it will it'll all be left to continue in year 2 of Batman Eternal after Convergence. This is such a mess overall, even though there's been quite a few decent issues and occasionally excellent issues, and both of these go into the somewhere between good and excellent issues for me. But it's overall such a mess, like an editorial mess or a story runner mess or whatever. And that's either Snyder's fault or Tynion's fault or the editor's fault. It's hard to tell with all the different editors they tend to credit who's in charge. There's David Whale Gaz, assistant editor, Chris Conroy, editor, Mark Doyle, group editor, so the blame could be spread around. But I think it still sells okay, so there probably will be a year or two. But I really hope that they wrap everything up for year 1 and start fresh and learn from their mistakes, rather than it's like it's like trying to put Band-Aids on a giant burn or something by trying to keep stretching this out. They need to wrap it up and get back. I really hope that most of the issues in this finale will be by Tynion, because I feel like he's the only one deeply invested in the story. Whenever he writes a script, it feels really on point and moves things forward. It could be because he's the showrunner and he's not letting other people move things forward. I don't know. But in any case, I kind of find myself hoping for more Tynion issues. And finally, initially, I was not reading Batman. In fact, I have not read the central Snyder-Capullo Batman series for a little bit over a year, because I skipped Zero Year, and I was going to get it in trade, and so many people were down on it that I'm just getting it from the library in trade, and I'll see it if I like it. When they collect the whole thing in one volume, I'll probably get it. And so meantime, I was just hearing people talk about Endgame, and I really wanted some more cool Batman and Capullo art and everything. So I went out and I picked up the first 4 issues of this and Batman Annual. And unfortunately mostly only had available to me alternative covers, which are a horrible waste compared to getting the proper Capullo cover, with the possible exception of this Darwin Cook cover, although it just doesn't feel at all connected to what's going on inside. So the first thing I noticed when I first cracked this open and started reading some Snyder Capullo Batman was this feels so much like a different Batman. Like I was talking before about how the voice of Batman in my head now is the Batman from Batman and Robin and the Batman from Arkham Asylum, who is a little grimmer and more stoic and more on point in my mind than what we get with this Bruce Wayne Batman. He's a little more chipper and with a patina of innocence, and he's a little bit more like what Scott Snyder's like in interviews. I've never heard an interview with Pete Tomasi. I don't imagine him being a gruff, man of few words, Batman type of person. But this is not a Batman of few words. He seems to talk and talk and talk and talk. And so I found that I found this Batman it's kind of a shock after all this time of not reading Batman. The other weird thing is, although I totally love so much of Capullo's artwork, at times the faces on the characters, like look at Julia and Bruce here, they just seem like totally blanded out mannequins. They seem to suddenly have no personality in their expression at all. At other times, there's lots of expression. like this Jokerized Superman is brilliantly disturbing. But Capullo has certain faces that he does over and over again. But that's being very picky, because he is one of the most brilliant superhero artists out there right now. He just does amazing things with the page. And so, yeah, I am glad to be back reading this. The other thing that struck me that's kind of a different feel about a Scott Snyder Batman story, or these Batman stories compared to most comic book stories, is they feel like meticulously built clocks. The myth of the clockmaker, where he's putting the pieces together, and you can almost see his concentration and his focus on the overall sort of mechanism of the story. And that's a strength, and for me at the moment a weakness. Again, it seems he's more interested in these pieces that fit together and having people dialogue and everything fit with the sort of the theme and the plot more than with that's more important than their character at times. It's a less character driven, to me, Batman than others. I'm just loving as I page through the art here. And color is amazing. I assume that's still FCO Placencia. FCO and ACO, I don't know what's going on with those kind of names. But, so, and all of this comes to a head. So I kind of liked Chapter 1, although I thought it was a bit pretentious with its time shifts and its theme about the theater and stuff. Like that was overdone. And then I really was digging it in 36 and 37 as the story ramped up. Part 2 and Part 3. As the clockwork machinery, I felt hooked into the creation of this sort of maniacal creation of Scott Snyder. But then in Chapter 4, issue 38, where I finally got an actual cover, and a brilliant cover that is, I felt underwhelmed. I felt thrown out of the story. There was too much talking, too much explaining, too much sort of telling. It just seemed too obvious, too on the nose. And after a while, I also kind of lost a belief in Batman, just constantly chatting and confessing to Robin, I guess. There's Robin. Apparently no security problem for him to just have a long chat with Batman from Spiral. But not only was it just too much talking, but it seemed I couldn't buy him having this endless conversation with Robin about what's going on and everything while fighting these armies of Joker zombies and stuff. So it's like Scott Snyder feels overeager to me to show me all his ideas in a way, to lay it out in words, instead of finding other ways, actual scenes, to kind of the show don't tell in a way. Talky, but still want to know what's going to happen next, of course, and the art is worth the price alone. Then there's all these backup stories which have great artists and are kind of interesting, but after the first one you sort of get the picture. Each one is going to be a different person telling a different, probably imaginary version of the Joker, and in this case the Joker's relationship with Batman. But it's a pleasure seeing all these great guest artists. Sam Keith here. One issue had one of my favorite old-time Batman artists, Kelly Jones, and Kelly Jones was in prime form here, really benefiting, I think, from modern color and being on slick paper and everything, as opposed to the old newsprint ones. So that's a pleasurable little bonus. It is interesting, are they really going to make the Joker this kind of mythological creature? I liked the way he was presented in this Batman annual. The Joker, that is. Kind of an obsessive, but I don't want him to be pushed into the supernatural, which I almost wonder in this Batman here, in the Endgame series, if it's possible it's not really the Joker, some other shape changer who's masquerading as the Joker. Although that doesn't really explain how he's gotten his picture in historical pictures everywhere. Although I don't know if all those pictures are online or if some of them people had physical copies of. If it's all electronic, maybe there's some kind of virus the Joker used to insert himself all over the internet on any digital pictures. A little stretching it. Scott Snyder likes to use scientific-sounding stuff, which is good and bad, because sometimes when he goes over, he's sounding so realistic and scientific, and then something totally impossible is happening, and it makes me a little more critical about it, if you see what I'm saying. Anyway, so it does, coming back to the Scott Snyder, does keep me feeling that my favorite is Tomasi, and with Snyder very close behind just because of the interesting things he does. But I don't feel right now, in my feeling of how Batman should be, that this is the Batman. This is not the core Batman character for me. He's more of a marker, something in what's in a Scott Snyder story, a Snyder Batman. I don't know what I'm saying here. Anyway, I'll have more Bat reports coming up soon. And if you've made it to this 27-minute mark, thank you so much. Bye-bye.